Welcome back, everyone. Today we are hitting day 15 of our data science course, and this explainer is going to be your personal map to the theoretical and practical landscape of statistical learning. We're going to take some of these heavy foundational concepts and break them down into a really visual, structured guide that you can actually start using right away.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a classic, slightly humorous quote from Yogi Berra. He said, "It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future." And, he hit the nail on the head. Prediction is inherently difficult. But, as we'll see today, by really understanding the underlying math and structures of our data, we can make those predictions with a whole lot more confidence.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today to lower your cognitive load. First up, what is statistical learning? Then we'll compare supervised and unsupervised learning. Third, we'll tackle the notorious bias-variance trade-off. And finally, we'll jump into an introduction to scikit-learn.
All right, Section 1. What is statistical learning? Think of this as your map to prediction.
So, what are we even talking about here? At its core, statistical learning is just a massive set of tools for modeling and understanding complex data sets. I mean, with the absolute explosion of big data in fields ranging from medicine to astrophysics to finance, statistical learning has really emerged as the mathematical engine we use. We use it to uncover these hidden relationships buried within massive arrays of information. We're essentially just trying to learn the rules and the structure straight from the data itself.
When you get right down to it, in almost every predictive setting, our ultimate goal looks exactly like this. Y is approximately equal to f of x. In this little equation, x represents our input variables, the features or predictors we already have on hand. Y is the output, the thing we actually want to predict. And that f? Well, that's the true underlying relationship between x and y. Our whole mission is to find the best possible estimate for that mysterious function so we can accurately predict our output.
Take a look at this. See that blue sweeping three-dimensional surface? That beautifully represents our estimated function, the relationship we've tried to map out between different variables. But look closely at the red dots. Those are our real-world data points, our actual observations. Notice how they don't sit perfectly flat on the blue surface? The tiny black lines connecting those red dots down to the surface represent our error. Because the truth is, even with the absolute best model in the world, there are unmeasurable variations. We call that irreducible error. Our goal isn't magic perfection. It's just getting that blue surface as close to those red dots is mathematically possible.
Moving right along to Section 2, supervised versus unsupervised learning. Basically, a major fork in the road.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the stark contrast between these two paradigms. Supervised learning is exactly what we just looked at. You have your input variables, your x, and you have a guiding response variable, your y, that you're trying to predict. You are literally being supervised by the known answers in your training data. Unsupervised learning, on the other hand, is a completely different beast. You have your inputs, but no supervising response variable y whatsoever. You're flying blind. The algorithm's job is to just dive into the data and find hidden structures entirely on its own.
To picture this, check out this unsupervised learning example. Here we have a scatter plot, and the points are plotted based solely on the relationships between different input variables. There are no predefined labels telling us, hey, this point is category A and this one is category B. Nothing like that. Instead, we use a technique called cluster analysis. And as you can see, the data naturally organizes itself into these distinct overlapping groups, highlighted here by the different shapes and colors. The algorithm found those subgroups without any human supervision. It's an incredibly powerful way to, say, discover unknown subtypes of diseases or group together customers for a marketing campaign.
All right, let's hit Section 3, the bias-variance trade-off, the ultimate challenge in predictive modeling.
At this point, you're probably wondering, if we have all these incredibly advanced algorithms, from basic linear regression to massive neural networks, why can't we just pick the single best one for every data problem and call it a day?
Well, the answer comes down to a well-known concept in statistics called the no free lunch theorem. Simply put, there is no single magic approach that dominates all others across every possible dataset. It just doesn't exist. If you use a highly inflexible method, like a straight, rigid line, it might be way too simple and completely miss the true complex shape of the data. We call that underfitting. But on the flip side, an overly flexible model might bend and twist so much that it memorizes every single point in the training set, including all the random, meaningless noise. Then, when you throw that super flexible model at new real-world data, it fails miserably. And that, folks, is overfitting.
And that brings us to the mathematical heart of the issue, the expected test mean squared error, or MSE.
See, we really don't care how well our model performs on the training data it's already memorized. We care about how it handles future, unseen data. To minimize that test error, we are forced to perfectly balance two competing properties, variance and squared bias. Variance is how much our estimated function would bounce around if we just used a different set of training data. Bias is the error we introduce by taking a super complicated real-life problem and trying to approximate it with a much simpler model. We've got to balance those two out, while accepting that the third piece of the puzzle, that irreducible error, is always going to be there.
This chart brilliantly illustrates that whole delicate balancing act. See that red U-shaped curve? As a model gets more flexible, meaning we're moving from left to right on the graph, our bias, which is the blue line, drops, but our variance, the orange line, starts to increase. Initially, the drop in bias outpaces the rise in variance, so our overall red test error curve goes down. Awesome, right? But eventually we hit a turning point. High variance takes over, the model starts memorizing random noise, and that red test error shoots right back up. Our absolute biggest challenge as data scientists is finding that perfect sweet spot right at the bottom of the red curve.
Okay, final stretch. Section 4, Introduction to Scikit-Learn. Time to pick up your weapon of choice.
So all this theoretical math is fantastic, but we need a practical way to actually do this. Enter Scikit-Learn. If you're writing in Python, this has firmly established itself as the premier machine learning toolkit. It's absolutely massive, backed by over 1,500 global contributors. And the real key here is that it's highly prediction-focused. Other libraries might focus on classical statistical inference or finding p-values, but Scikit-Learn is built from the ground up to predict outcomes on unseen data. Plus, it has everything you need for both the supervised and unsupervised tasks we just covered.
As you can see right here, the actual architecture of Scikit-Learn maps perfectly to everything we've talked about today. The submodules are organized directly around our core tasks. Doing supervised classification, you've got tools like support vector machines and logistic regression ready to roll. Need supervised regression to predict a number? Boom, lasso or ridge regression. Going the unsupervised route, you have instant access to clustering algorithms like k-means. It literally translates the heavy theory into executable Python code without treating the math entirely like a black box.
All right, so we've mapped out the territory. You know the fundamental goal of estimating reality. You understand the fork between supervised and unsupervised learning, and you know how to navigate the bias-variance trade-off. Now, with Scikit-Learn, you hold the compass. So, my final question to you is simply this. What are you going to predict first? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep on learning.